A very good morning. EURUSD has pushed down lower overnight under the news that Xi and Trump held a call, as reported by the Chinese state media. Furthermore, Trump says that after the call with Xi, that the United States and China will resume trade talks. And last of all, Elon Musk and Trump have a massive beef currently going on X. For those who do not know what beef is, it is pretty much just a big discussion slash kind of like fight. And Trump has been accused of being included within the Epstein files. And Elon Musk also says that the current proposed tax bill is a disaster for the United States. So this and much more has been happening. Now, I just wanted to highlight this quick message before I dive into EURUSD, because Trump says again this over here, but then I was reading this comment. Yeah, this is definitely an interesting headline, because any time that Trump and Xi trade roll back, the market tends to perk up. So the market tends to push, right? So we see AUDUSD push up, we see NZDUSD push up higher, we also see some USD strength, we see stocks go up as well. And especially the Australian dollar, as it's China's key trading partner. But honestly, we've seen this show before. Big talks and then crickets, nothing of progress happens. So unless we get some real follow through, like concrete tariff changes or scheduled meetings, this could just end up being another fade opportunity. So I'd watch gold and the yen pairs for a reversal if the initial hype fades. Just keep that in mind. So potential gold longs, definitely if this overall hype fades and we don't see any follow through, and also yen longs. However, I would preferably just focus on gold mainly, and that would be where my focus is. So it's kind of a wait and see moment, so don't chase the first candle and let the market show its hand. Now, diving into EURUSD, first of all, guys, we can see that again overnight we've been pushing down lower. Now we are pushing up higher and higher, slowly but surely, but still there is not a lot of momentum in towards the highs overall. Yesterday, with the European Central Bank interest rate decision, we saw an initial push in towards the downside. If I'm not mistaken, this decision was taken here at around 230, so it was around here. We saw a very small pop in towards the downside, but then a massive reversal in towards the highs, again taking out all the stops of everybody who was shorting. Because again, what do you expect when the ECB lowers, okay, so this is ECD, but ECB lowers its interest rates? Then you expect overall a weaker euro. So that would make sense for EURUSD then to push down lower as the dollar gets stronger. However, we see the opposite after that news. Boom, we push up higher. And this is a perfect example of buy the rumor, sell the news overall. So in this particular example, we can just very clearly see that everybody starts shorting with the news, and then boom, they stop out everyone, and then they start pushing down lower again, and then everybody's obviously now chasing the shorts once again. So overall, EURUSD, some nice price action from that perspective. So I am actually interested in shorts if indeed those headlines in regards to the trade talks keep persisting, because obviously the only reason why the euro has been this strong is definitely because of the progress made on the tariff side, or on the progress not made on the tariff side, let's put it that way. So any progress will push EURUSD down lower and make the dollar stronger. So what I'm now waiting for is for the current fractal low to break, and then that in combination with the fact that there could be potential updates in relation to those trade talks, that should push us down lower eventually, and hopefully that will be at the same time that the current fractal low gets broken, and then we could get into some beautiful shorts. In addition to that, you would have like a 1, 2, third trendline touch. So you break it, third trendline touch, everybody starts buying, then we start selling on the retracement into supply, and then we get into that beautiful short. That is pretty much my game plan at the moment for Euro USD. Okay, looking here at the 4-hour time frame, we could get in a little bit earlier once the current fractal low here on the 4-hour breaks, if it does, by the way, and then start taking out all of the lows. That is kind of like the early setup. If you want the higher probability setup, then wait for that daily fractal to break. Personally, not interested in longs at the moment with the current momentum that is in towards the downside, and yeah, especially that. But keep in mind that this afternoon is NFP, and depending on what NFP numbers are. So if the NFP numbers are bad, then obviously your USD will fly in towards the highs. If NFP is good, we could see some definite and stronger downside, definitely in combination with those headlines in relation to those trade talks. So it's going to be a bit of a guessing game, to be honest, with the NFP. But if the NFP is indeed good, then I think in towards the end of next week, we'll definitely see a bigger overall swing in towards the downside. But yeah, we're very dependent on the news. That's why definitely wait for NFP to drop. And then once NFP drops, you'll have kind of like a clearer picture of where we're heading next. Because EURUSD will push up higher if trade talks fade and NFP is bad. EURUSD will push down lower if there's actual concrete progress in relation to those tariff talks and NFP is good as well. Now, going into the dollar index, we can see that the dollar index is pushing up higher as well again. Overall, to be very honest, not a big fan of the movement on the dollar. Yesterday, we started selling off from where? From, again, that area of supply. As mentioned in yesterday's video, that is what has been pushing the market down lower. 4-hour time frame as well, or on the 1 hour, we discussed that we had an area of supply. The supply zone that pushed the market down lower was this over here. As we can see, we tap in towards it and then boom, we push down lower. Now, the market has started to reverse with a V-shaped reaction. So let's see what it does. I mean, we're coming back into that supply zone for the second time now. 4-hour fractal structure has flipped bullish. Overall, I'm only really going to be convinced that we can see higher prices from the dollar once we start breaking here on the daily time frame. So we need the daily to break the current fractal high with NFP, and then we could look for further longs into next week to take out this high, and this high. But that will only happen again if NFP numbers are good. So let's keep an eye on what happens here. Otherwise, we could just continue selling off, as obviously the weekly time frame is still pretty, let's say, bearish with the momentum. However, there's one thing that I haven't really discussed, and that is the fact that the weekly fractal structure is bullish. So we're actually inside weekly demand, and you could also draw in a fib like this. So pretty much as long as the overall weekly low is respected, the current fractal low on the weekly, it still makes sense to push up higher. So I'm very curious to see where we end up at the end of today. Let's see if we can reject that 786. I don't really trade the fib levels, but it's just interesting to see. And obviously now from a 4-hour perspective, what needs to happen is that we just need to pretty much break the highs and really see some momentum in towards the highs before really getting in those higher probability longs, okay? So that's really what I'm waiting for. Daily fractal high break, and then I'll have a lot more conviction for EURUSD shorts because there's still so much room for the dollar to push up higher. Now, going into AUDUSD, AUDUSD should have popped up higher yesterday. It did. It again took out this high. Still hasn't taken out the XI, guys. Still waiting for that XI to get taken out. Overall, what can I say? I mean, the overall long bias has been playing out. Obviously, it's getting riskier and riskier to still trade those Aussie dollar longs. We're currently inside 4-hour demand with the 4-hour fractal low being respected. So, I mean, obviously the longs still make sense from these levels. But yeah, I mean, at the moment, let's wait for that 1-hour fractal to shift. If the fractal shifts, then you could maybe look for kind of like an NFP long. If NFP data is bad, then that should push up AUDUSD a lot higher. So you can keep an eye on those longs once the fractal structure shifts, and if NFP data is bad, that could provide us with a nice long opportunity, as long as like the 4-hour, because the 4-hour is still bullish, the daily is still bullish. So and the daily liquidity still needs to be taken. Going into GBPUSD, GBPUSD also finally started selling off a bit, as we can see pretty aggressively actually last night and into this morning even. Now it's come back to this ascending trend line again, a lot of ascending lows. So I'm definitely looking for the overall kind of like next swing down. We've grabbed liquidity above this high, as you can see, a perfect liquidity grab, kind of like as I mentioned at the beginning of the week. Daily fractal structure has now happened. So I want to see how we close at the end of the day. If we close bearish, guys, then next week will provide us with a shorting opportunity, with a beautiful one from this area of supply. So I want to see a strong candle close. Next week on Monday, we retrace and then look for those further shorts. That is what I have my eyes open for on GBPUSD. Going into NZDUSD, we can see that it is similar to AU. Again, not a big fan of this at the moment. It's getting a little bit slow. Today's candlestick will kind of like show us where the market is heading next. It needs to kind of like close like a strong bullish candle, and then we'll have a more clear area of demand. At the moment, it's moving slowly, very slowly actually. 1 hour is getting choppier and choppier. So it looks like we have some equal lows left behind still over here, or even over here still. So I would preferably see those get taken out before any further longs. But depending on what NFP again does today, that will kind of like determine my bias for next week. Because again, we're leaving behind so many ascending lows over here, a lot of liquidity. So I would love to see a sell-off, but as long as the daily fractals remain bullish, then it doesn't make sense to short. Going into dollar Swiss, dollar yen, and gold. Dollar Swiss looking for that further upside still, as discussed in yesterday's video. It's at a key level of support, previous area of daily demand, which is the green zone. Weekly time frame, I mean, I could not really make it more simple than the fact that we have an area of consolidation. We've popped below the low of the area of consolidation. That for me is the liquidity grab. So this is for me the accumulation phase. This for me is the manipulation phase. And now I'm just looking for the distribution phase back in towards the highs here. Also expecting a weak Swiss franc. Then going into dollar yen also still looking for further upside. It rebounded beautifully yesterday, so still looking for this to push up higher as well. It's at a key level of resistance, very simply said here, with this kind of like being the key level of around 144. So it needs to break above this. Again, I don't trade support and resistance, but we do trade common logic, and we can very clearly see that that 144 level is a natural barrier. So if we can break that and then retest it, then I'll be looking for some more longs on the lower time frame, being, for example, the 1 hour and the 4 hour. And then last of all, we have, of course, gold. So gold should push up higher once those trade talks start to fade, or if they fade. Again, we're in the overall bullish phase here on gold and looking to establish a new higher high. So looking for those longs still on gold, overall. But yeah, not very clean price action today. I mean, there is still potential for it to push down lower again, as there's still some liquidity open. Myself, I'm not a big fan of these kind of setups for any longs, because we've taken out kind of like the range high over here. You can see we liquidate that high. We form kind of like a supply zone, and we still have kind of like these lows open, so this low of the range. So could be that we pop down lower still, but it will again be very dependent on what NFP does and how today ends up closing, or the daily candle closes. So let's see if the daily candle will be bullish or bearish. That's going to kind of like be dependent, because if we are bullish, then we see a strong close like that, then obviously the sell before the buy here will be your demand zone, and then into next week we can look for longs again. So it's kind of like an indecisive day, obviously, with NFP, so we're going to have to wait and see what happens, how the candle closes are, and then depending on that, can we take some more positions again. So thanks for watching, guys. Wish you all a fantastic trading day, and speak soon.